Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go!
After losing my day job at the manufacturing plant 6 months earlier, I've been scrambling to find work. The only thing that came through was a security position at a warehouse that ran from 6 in the evening until 2 in the morning. My partner and I had bought our little house at the end of a dead-end street 3 years ago. We couldn't afford a car, so the empty driveway was mostly just there. I gotten used to neighbors and delivery drivers using it to turn around instead of trying to navigate their way out backward. It never really bothered me much, except in winter when they'd pack down the snow and make my shoveling harder. Everything changed when my neighbor's kids started getting picked up by this ride service van every morning. The first few times, I figured it was temporary, maybe while their car was in the shop. But it kept happening day after day. The driver would pull into my driveway around 8 in the morning, right when I was trying to get some sleep after my shift. Then came the honking. Not just a polite beep to let the kid know he was there, but this long, obnoxious honking session that would jolt me awake every single time. To make matters worse, half the time he'd park with his wheels on my tiny patch of front lawn, leaving tire tracks in the grass. After a week of this, I was exhausted and frustrated. I knocked on my neighbor's door one evening before work. I explained to her that I worked nights and was usually sleeping when the ride service came by. I told her I didn't mind the driver using my driveway to turn around, but the constant honking every morning was waking me up, and he kept driving on my lawn. She seemed genuinely apologetic and promised to talk to him about it. But the next morning, same thing. Honk, honk, honk at 8 a.m. and fresh tire tracks on my grass. I decided to talk to the driver directly. The next morning, I threw on some clothes and went outside while he was there. I asked if I could have a word with him. When I explained that I work nights and his honking wakes me up, and asked if he could stay off my lawn when parking, he got defensive. He asked what my problem was and pointed out that it's not like I'm using the driveway anyway. I repeated that I didn't mind him using the driveway, but I needed him to stop honking and stay off the grass. He seemed annoyed and asked if I really expected him to get out and knock on the door every day, calling that ridiculous. I suggested he could just wait for the kid to notice he was there. He brushed me off with a dismissive whatever and drove away. I could tell he had no intention of changing anything. The next morning brought more of the same. I tried a different approach and placed one of my recycling bins at the foot of my driveway, thinking it might encourage him to be more careful. He just ran right over it, crushing it completely. I decided to call the ride service company directly. I explained to the dispatcher that I was having an issue with one of their drivers who was using my private driveway and causing problems. The dispatcher told me that their drivers are independent contractors and technically self-employed, so they couldn't really control what they do. She said she could pass along my message though. I asked her to at least let him know that he needed to stop honking and stay off my lawn, and she promised to make sure he got the message. The next morning, I was jolted awake by aggressive pounding on my front door. I stumbled out of bed and opened it to find the driver standing there, absolutely furious. He was screaming about how I had dared to call his boss, calling me names and asking what was wrong with me. I explained that it was quite simple. He'd been told not to use my driveway if he was going to drive on my lawn and wake me up every morning. I told him to get off my doorstep. He threatened to sue me if he lost his job because of me. I warned him not to trespass on my driveway or property again. He stormed off, shouting profanities and making threats. This happened on a Thursday, and I knew the kids had a professional development day on Friday. The weather forecast was calling for one of those brutal Canadian cold snaps where temperatures would drop to minus 40 degrees Celsius over the weekend. That Thursday night before heading to work, I grabbed one of my old plastic garbage bins. I made sure to seal up all the cracks and holes with duct tape, attached a sign that read, "Private property, driveway not for public use," and filled the entire thing with water. I placed it right at the entrance to my driveway. By Monday morning, that water had frozen solid into a massive block of ice inside the garbage bin. I was getting ready for bed after my shift when I heard a vehicle approaching. I peeked out my window and saw the familiar van coming down the street. The driver spotted my garbage bin barrier and stopped. I watched as he backed up, revved his engine, and then charged forward like he was going to ram right through it to teach me a lesson. The impact was spectacular. The frozen garbage bin barely budged, but his van crumpled like an accordion. The front bumper was hanging off, the hood was dented, and steam was rising from under it. The driver jumped out and started screaming. Within minutes, he was pounding on my door again, yelling that I was going to buy him a new car right now and threatening that he was calling the cops and I was about to be arrested. I told him to go ahead and call them. 20 minutes later, a police officer arrived. The driver launched into his version of events, claiming I had sabotaged his vehicle and demanding that I be charged. The officer listened patiently and then summarized the situation back to him. He explained that I had asked the driver not to park there if he couldn't refrain from honking and disturbing my sleep, then warned him not to park there at all and put up a barrier on my own property. The officer pointed out that the driver now expected me to be charged and to pay for damages he caused to his own vehicle while attempting to destroy my personal property. The driver tried to argue that I had set a trap, but the officer explained that it was on my own property, which the driver was trespassing on after being repeatedly told not to use it. The officer then turned to me with a slight smirk and asked if I wanted to pursue charges for him damaging my personal property and trespassing. I looked at the driver, who was standing there in the freezing cold, his van steaming and broken, waiting for a tow truck that was probably going to take hours to arrive. His face had gone from angry red to a sort of pale realization that he'd just destroyed his own vehicle and potentially his job. I told the officer that we were good. The officer agreed with me and told the driver that's not how things work. You can't ram someone's property and then demand they pay for your damages. I went back inside and made myself a cup of coffee, watching from my kitchen window as the driver paced back and forth in the -40 weather. He had to call his company to explain why they needed to send another driver to complete his route, and then stand there for nearly 2 hours waiting for the tow truck. The garbage bin was completely fine, just sitting there like nothing had happened. The driver kept looking at my house while he waited, but there wasn't much he could do about it. I never saw him again after that day. I'm 23 and I've been dealing with eczema since I was a kid. For those who don't know, eczema is a skin condition that makes your skin extremely dry, itchy, and sometimes it swells up really bad. It gets worse depending on what I eat, the weather, stress, basically anything. Some days it's barely noticeable, other days I look like I got into a fight with a cactus and lost. My girlfriend has been amazing about it though. She's never made me feel weird or ashamed, even when my skin looks pretty rough. My parents are really social people. They love having friends over, and they always want to include everyone in everything. Usually this is fine, but they have this friend who's married to a doctor, and she's always had issues with my condition. I'll call her Karen. Karen and I had met a few times before at family gatherings. The first time she saw my eczema flare up, she went on this long rant about how it was probably because I don't eat right or take care of myself properly. She kept saying her husband could fix me if I just listened to him. The thing is, her husband is actually a nice guy who knows that eczema isn't something you can just cure with home remedies. But Karen thinks she knows better than actual dermatologists. One time, she literally tried to pour boiling water on my arms because she read somewhere that heat therapy could help. My dad had to physically stop her. After that, I tried to avoid her whenever possible. So when my birthday came around and my parents wanted to throw a little party, I was already dreading it. My skin was having a bad day. It was red, swollen, and really sore. The sun makes it worse, so I decided to stay inside most of the time. My girlfriend asked if I was sure I was okay staying inside since it was my birthday. I told her that the sun would just make it worse, plus Karen was coming and she knew how Karen gets around my condition. My girlfriend offered to stay with me inside so we could hang out together. I was grateful she offered to keep me company. My best friend was supposed to come too, but he had to work late at the hospital where he's a nurse. When the guests started arriving, I reluctantly went outside to say hello to everyone. That's when I saw Karen walking up with her kid, who's actually really sweet. The kid doesn't have any of his mom's entitlement issues. Karen immediately asked why I was hiding inside when she saw me. I explained that my skin was acting up that day, so I was trying to stay out of the sun. She said that was nonsense, and that fresh air and sunlight were good for me. She told me I needed to stop babying myself. Her kid tried to help by suggesting that maybe I knew what was best for my own skin, but Karen just ignored him completely. Karen kept insisting that I shouldn't be antisocial and that I needed to come out since it was my birthday party. I ended up spending about 15 minutes outside just to be polite, but my skin started burning from the sun exposure. I excused myself to go back inside and Karen followed me, saying she wanted to help get some snacks for her kid. I thought maybe she was actually trying to be nice for once. My girlfriend came with us to help carry things. I was reaching up to grab some plates from a high shelf when my arms started really hurting from stretching the irritated skin. I said I needed to take a break because it was hurting. My girlfriend offered to get the plates for me instead. That's when I heard it, the sound of a bottle cap being twisted off behind me. I turned around and saw Karen holding a plastic bottle. I asked what the bottle was for. Karen said it was just something to help with my little problem. Before I could react, she poured the entire contents of the bottle directly onto my arms, focusing on the worst areas of my eczema. Within seconds, my skin started burning like nothing I'd ever felt before. The pain was so intense I couldn't even scream at first. I just started sobbing. My girlfriend immediately demanded to know what that was for, since I was in so much pain. Karen said she thought it would make me feel better because it was supposed to disinfect the area. My girlfriend screamed at her, asking what made her think pouring bleach on my skin would make me feel better and pointing out that my skin was literally burning. That's when I realized what had happened. This crazy woman had poured household bleach directly onto my already irritated eczema. The pain was unbearable. My girlfriend immediately rushed me to the sink and started pouring cool water over my arms while calling my parents and the police. Karen just stood there acting like nothing happened. She had the nerve to say it was just a little cleaning solution and that I was being dramatic. My girlfriend asked if she was insane since she had just chemically burned me. The ambulance arrived and took me to the emergency room. My girlfriend called my parents and the police while the doctors treated my chemical burns. They had to flush my skin for what felt like hours. When my parents got to the hospital, Karen showed up too with her kid and my best friend, who had just gotten off his shift. The police were there asking questions. The officer asked Karen to explain what happened. Karen claimed it was an accident and that she grabbed the wrong bottle by mistake. She said she was just trying to help clean my skin condition. I told the officer that was a lie and explained that she had made comments about my eczema before and even tried to pour boiling water on me once. My girlfriend backed me up, telling the police that she saw the whole thing and that Karen deliberately poured bleach on me. My best friend looked shocked when he heard what his colleague's wife had done. He asked Karen what she was thinking since bleach can cause severe chemical burns, especially on compromised skin. Karen tried to defend herself by saying she read online that diluted bleach baths can help with skin conditions. My best friend explained that those treatments are completely different because they're measured, medical-grade treatments supervised by doctors, not pouring household bleach directly onto inflamed skin. The police took statements from everyone. Karen kept trying to claim it was an accident, but my girlfriend and I told them about her previous behavior and how deliberate her actions were. My best friend felt terrible about what happened. He gave me a prescription cream for the burns and made sure I knew how to care for the wounds properly. He apologized for what happened and said he had no idea she would do something so dangerous. I told him it wasn't his fault, but that I was definitely pressing charges. The officer confirmed they would be arresting Karen for assault and that I'd get a court date within the week. When they led Karen away in handcuffs, she started yelling about how I was being overdramatic and that she was just trying to help. Her poor kid was crying and apologizing to me. The kid said he was really sorry about his mom and asked if I was going to be okay. I told him it wasn't his fault and that his mom made her own choices. My best friend arranged for someone to take care of the kid while Karen dealt with the legal situation. The court case happened the following week. Karen showed up with a lawyer trying to argue that it was a genuine mistake and that she had no intention of causing harm. But between my testimony, my girlfriend's witness account, and the evidence of her previous behavior, the judge wasn't buying it. The judge ended up sentencing Karen to 18 months in jail for aggravated assault. Plus, she has to pay for all my medical bills and additional damages for pain and suffering. Her husband is filing for divorce and full custody of their kid. It's been 5 weeks now and my arms are finally starting to heal properly thanks to the prescription cream. The scars are fading, but they'll probably never go away completely. My girlfriend has been incredible through this whole thing, helping me with everything since I couldn't use my arms properly for weeks. Karen is currently serving her sentence and has been ordered to stay away from me and my family permanently. I started my own business right out of college, working 16-hour days for years while my husband climbed the corporate ladder. We made sacrifices, lived below our means, and reinvested everything back into building our future. Some smart investments and a lot of luck later, we're financially comfortable. Not billionaire rich, but comfortable enough that we don't worry about money anymore. Because we're close to certain family members, we set up college funds for their kids. 6 cousins who we actually have relationships with, who visit us regularly, who we spend holidays with. 12 kids total. We also have a vacation home that we sometimes share with my mother-in-law, father-in-law, and my husband's sisters when we plan family trips. But that was a mistake. It all started when my sister-in-law demanded I pay for her family's vacation. When I said no, she lost it and started calling everyone in the family, telling them about our financial situation. Suddenly, relatives who barely knew we existed were crawling out of the woodwork. The first call came from my husband's aunt and uncle, people I see maybe once every few years at family reunions, if that. They called asking about our situation, something they never do. I put my phone on speaker since I was folding laundry. At first, they made small talk about how we were doing and our experiences during the pandemic. Then things got weird. They asked if it was true that I had college funds set up for some of the cousins' children. I admitted it was true because I'm not a liar. Then they asked if it was true that I had taken my mother-in-law, father-in-law, and sisters-in-law on vacation. Again, I confirmed it was true. They asked about our vacation home too. I told them yes, but wanted to know why they were asking all these questions. They told me they never knew we had so much money. I explained that it came from hard work, sacrifices, dedication, and some luck. Then they dropped the bomb. They told me I had to pay for their grandchildren's college funds too. They said we deserved to take them on vacation as well because we're family, so I had to pay. I was so shocked I remained silent. They kept going, saying that since we're family, I was obligated to give them money. They got more specific and demanding, saying they wanted college funds of $800,000 each for their 6 grandchildren. They also wanted a vacation home like ours in a specific location they had already picked out. They would send me the information about it. They insisted on family vacations too, all paid for by me because we're family and I have the money. I was getting more and more angry when they continued ranting about how they deserved it all, because we're family and family takes care of each other. My husband had heard everything and was getting furious too. I pressed the record button halfway through and asked them to repeat their demands, which they gladly did. I asked them if they had more to say, and when they told me no, I told them flat out that it wasn't going to happen. I told them they might think they're entitled to my money, but they aren't. Then I reminded them of something they had told us years ago when we were struggling and asked for help during a health scare. We had asked every family member for assistance and promised to pay it back. Only 3 out of 9 aunts and uncles helped us, and we did pay them all back. But these 2 had told us that it was our responsibility to have and save enough money for our family's care, well-being, and education. If we didn't do that, then we didn't deserve to have a family. They had refused to give us any money back then. The silence on their end was deafening. I told them to relay that message to the rest of the family and not to call us with such demands again. Then I hung up. My husband was proud, but I knew this wasn't over. In the following weeks, more family members called with similar demands. The three relatives who had actually helped us during our difficult time called to say they supported our decision and didn't want anything more from us. They told me they had seen plenty of money in their lives and weren't asking for more. One cousin called asking for a certified loan for a house down payment. They had most of their money saved but came up short by $1,000 and needed to close sooner to get the house. I agreed to that reasonable request, and they're already paying me back in installments. But that reasonable loan caused even more drama with the entitled relatives. We had a video call with the whole extended family where I explained my position. I told them they could come to me for genuine financial help, but it would have to be under legal contracts so nobody would feel screwed over. The cousin who borrowed money even showed everyone the notarized loan document. Most of the family seemed to understand my reasoning even if they weren't entirely happy about it. But some weren't satisfied with that answer. Last week, I came home from work to find 15 to 20 cars parked on my usually quiet street. When I drove past my house to find parking, I saw a crowd of about 20 family members gathered in my front yard. 3 aunts, 3 uncles, and several cousins with their spouses were all there. Now, here's something most people don't know about me. I have security cameras around my home that record sound. Another thing people don't know is that I don't mess around when I'm threatened. I've been told my right hook is very painful. While walking back to my house, I called the non-emergency police line and explained the situation. I told them things might get out of hand and asked if they could send officers to help if needed. They told me they would send some cops. The moment I stepped into view, all hell broke loose. The crowd started screaming and cursing at me, telling me to pay up or they would make sure I'd pay one way or another. They surrounded me completely, backing me into a corner. Some of them started poking their fingers close to my face and jabbing me in the chest and arms. I told them multiple times to stop what they were doing and leave my property, but they wouldn't listen. Neighbors had also called the police by this point because of all the noise and commotion. When the officers arrived, they were trying to push through the crowd to reach me. That's when my uncle made a huge mistake. This 6'3" man slapped me hard across the face, right in full view of the police officers. The crowd went completely silent when he shoved his face almost against mine and started ranting about how I had to obey him. He kept his hand raised like he was going to hit me again, going on and on about my obligations to the family. He didn't get to finish his speech. I knocked him to the ground with one solid punch. He stayed down, not unconscious, but definitely rattled and stunned that I had actually hit him back. That was all the police needed to see. The family members were shocked into silence, and the officers managed to get them away from me. They were all furious about getting arrested. Several relatives made a run for their cars and sped off before the cops could stop them. The rest got to meet some very angry police officers. They received fines for breaking social distancing rules and were told that charges might be pressed against them for what they had done. To make this long story shorter, I'm fine except for some bruised knuckles. My uncle ended up with a broken cheekbone. My security camera footage is now with the district attorney. The other family members who weren't involved in this mess have distanced themselves from what happened. I feel terrible about dividing the family like this. My husband keeps telling me this is money I worked hard for, so I get to decide what happens with it. I keep thinking about setting up college funds for the other children, but I'm worried that would show I can be bullied into giving in to violence, threats, and harassment. I'm so sick of dealing with all of this. I pressed charges against my uncle for hitting me. He hasn't filed counter charges against me for punching him back. He's voluntarily asking for anger management courses and psychological evaluation without anyone telling him to. His statement to the police told them he got carried away and felt like the other family members were encouraging his behavior. He also wrote that he was extremely sorry and never meant to hurt me. I don't know what to believe since this kind of violent behavior seemed completely out of character for him. He and his wife even contacted my lawyer with a written apology. Everyone who was there that day had to give statements to the police, and one clear pattern emerged from all their stories. They were all there because the aunt and uncle who had first called me with demands had convinced them to come and pressure me into paying up. My lawyer is now looking into harassment charges for the others who were present that day. He's also investigating whether the people who organized this confrontation can be charged with additional crimes. He's absolutely loving this case and having a field day with it. The family members who weren't involved in any of this have been sending me texts, making calls, and writing emails to apologize for their spouses, siblings, or parents' behavior. None of them have asked me to drop the charges or go easy on anyone. They're just offering genuine apologies for what happened. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.